Hey, makeup friends, and welcome back to another week of the makeup that I wore to work. I did not include pictures of my outfits this week. I apologize, but this week has just been a comedy of errors, so it just did not work into the day-to-day life, but managed to film the makeup at any rate. Also, you're going to have to forgive me if the noise levels in this video are kind of off the charts. It is Sunday as I'm doing my voiceover. Both kids are here. Barry's trying to keep them quiet, but that is an uphill battle. So anyways, let's get into the makeup. So this blush that I'm applying is from Kulfi. It's in the shade Lucky Lotus. It is beautiful, but a little goes a long way, I will say, which is great. I think that's perfect because if you have like a deeper skin tone than what I have, it's still going to show up. You can really build it up, but you can also sheer it out. So really enjoying that blush and curious about some of their other shades as well. And as well, I wanted to include this little portion here just to show that even after I have powdered my face, that blush still peeks through. Sometimes I find with cream blushes, they're just so very easy to hide and they just kind of disappear into nothing, but this one stands out. Also, shout out to this brush. I don't actually know the name of it. I'm sure if I went on the website, I could figure it out, but it's from Kaleidos and it's like the perfect powder brush. It's so nice and soft, but still nice and dense. Really, really enjoy that one. So I had put up a poll, I think 2 weeks ago, asking for what color should I feature in my weekly makeup series, and the winner for that poll was purple. So you're going to see that as a recurring theme throughout these looks. I've got 4 looks for you today because I was in the office for 4 days last week. So the day that I'm getting ready for here is actually Tuesday because Monday was Family Day here. I don't think that that's an American thing. I think that's strictly a Canadian holiday, but a few years ago they introduced Family Day. I'm not going to question it too much. It's a day off of work. We got to spend it together as a family. It was lovely. So this was Tuesday, and I was supposed to be having some training on this new software that we are having installed at our office. Yes, I'm still talking about the software. My God, let me just tell you. Anyways, I was supposed to be having the first of multiple training sessions on this day, and I got to the office and it was canceled. So that worked out in my favor because I also had an ultrasound scheduled. So if you'll recall from my last work video that I did, I had to go in for a mammogram because I had a change in my chest that my surgeon was a little concerned about. And so I did the mammogram. The next day they called me and they're like, you need to come in for an ultrasound because we have found something. We need to figure out what it is. And I'm like, okay, I'll just commence shitting bricks now. But I still had the ultrasound on the books, so I called them, confirmed that I could go in. I went in and had the ultrasound done on this day, and the technician went and hunted down the radiologist in the hospital while I was waiting so that I didn't have to wait days for my results. And as it turns out, there is nothing to be concerned about. So I'm very relieved about that. They found what they call fat necrosis along the incision line of one of my breasts from my breast reduction. And so it just showed up on the mammogram as something, and it is completely benign. It's just the result of having surgery. So not overly concerned about that. And I just have to go in for another follow-up ultrasound just to make sure everything is trucking along as it should. It should eventually resolve itself, but it's nothing to be concerned about. So very, very relieved about that. And also, honestly, just kind of glad to have ripped the bandage off the mammogram thing. I'm not due to start having them on an annual basis for another few years, but they'd always just been this big scary thing in my mind. My experience was great. I'm sure they're not always great, but mine was. So it's kind of taken the mystique out of that for me. So going forward, I'm not going to be scared about it. So glad about that. Anyways, back into the makeup. I obviously used the Viseart palette for this. I really, really like this palette, and for whatever reason, I just never remember to reach for it. So I'm really enjoying doing more of a themed approach to the work makeup because it's really getting me to bring out palettes that I haven't used in a long time. And it's also, because I'm doing that, it's really made it easy for me to not buy new palettes. There is one coming out from Fantasy Cosmetica that I do want to pick up. I for the life of me, can't remember what it's called right now. I think the Rogue palette. I do want to pick that one up, but I'm willing to wait. Like it's not a burning desire at this point. Just being able to like reintroduce myself to my collection and really just bring these items out so that I can play with them and just get use out of them is making me really happy right now. And I definitely encourage you guys as well. Just like go through your collection, even if it's literally just opening up the palettes and looking at them and then putting them back in the drawer or the shelf or however you store them. I find even just doing that can often inspire me with a palette. So encourage you to do that. There are no end of palettes being released on like a seemingly daily basis, and it's so easy to get sucked into everything that's new. But when you look at what you already have, guaranteed we don't need nearly as much as what we buy. I mean, I, for one, have often bought for the purposes of reviewing. I have bought simply because it's new. I've bought just out of curiosity. And those are all valid reasons. But right now, particularly with the economy being what it is, I just do not have a lot of expendable income at the moment to be buying things just merely to satisfy my own curiosity. So I'm really, really enjoying using what I have and just making the most of this collection that I have amassed over the last few years. All right, so I think I did show a little bit of the application of this, but not a lot. Eyes freak me out, and so I'm just going to project that onto you guys. I don't really enjoy seeing people tightline and all that kind of stuff, but just wanted to show you that that's what I applied. And then I went in with this Gucci lipstick, which looks like it's going to be really, really bold, but it's actually very sheer and very, very pretty. The name, I still don't know how I feel about it, wife versus secretary. I feel like it's very apropos for the job that I do, which is working at a law firm, doing nothing but divorce and separation. But at the same time, it's kind of like, was that necessary? I don't know how I feel about it. But the color is beautiful. So there it is. That is look one. And now we are on to day two. And this day I was exhausted. Something woke me up in the middle of the night, woke Barry and I up. And I'm still not entirely convinced what it was. It was either Bennett having a bad dream and like screaming in his sleep, or it was our dog. Sometimes when she yawns, she makes this like really strange high-pitched noise. And when she does it when we're at the office, it like my soul escapes my body. And that's what happened during this night. There was some sort of like high-pitched keening sort of noise just for like a split second, but enough to wake me up. I had that adrenaline dump, so I was up from like 4 until about 6 before I was able to sort of doze back off. And then, of course, the alarm goes off. And anyways, I was exhausted. So I was trying to keep the look a little bit more simplistic. I don't necessarily think I set myself up for, exhausted, going for the Red Bull. I don't really think I set myself up for success on this one because I chose one of the new Oden's eye palettes. And my most recent video is an eye swatch video with all 3 of these collaborator palettes, and they're tricky to work with. They're not the easiest thing to work with. If you're curious about each individual palette, like I said, I did eye swatches. I talk you through each shade. See, I'm already frustrated with it. It's totally workable, as you'll see here. I get a look out of it at the end of the day. But you got to work with it. You got to build them up. You got to blend them out. They're not the easiest to apply, even by Oden's eye standards, to be honest. I've used several of their palettes in the past, and I really haven't experienced this level of sort of patchiness with their mattes. So I'm not entirely sure what happened with this collection, but just really wasn't my favorite. And I feel badly for the collaborators that they worked with on that because it completely out of their control. And I don't really know what happened there. I'm not hating on the brand by any stretch, but my experience with these palettes has been that you just have to work with them. So there it is. But as you can see, I mean, the colors are very pretty. This color story in particular in the Flora palette is my favorite of the 3 that were released. I really like the mix of the purples and the more grungy greens. And you will see soon, after I finished blending this portion here, that I did reach into one of the more olive green tones right there and used that under my lash line. So I have to admit, I did not make notes this week because, again, it's just been one thing after the next. So I'm not entirely sure. I can't remember off the top of my head what I had on the calendar on the go that day at work. I didn't have any court dates this week, but we've just been dealing with this computer issue, and we finally did get the install done, finally, but that was on Friday. And we were supposed to have like a full day of training on that. And ultimately, what it ended up being was all of us sitting on Zoom watching each other install the program. That is how they decided to quote unquote train us from the program. So wasn't overly happy about that, but at any rate, we do now have it installed. I have pretty much no idea how to use it, but that's going to be a problem for this upcoming week, not for right this moment. Going back to the makeup, the shimmer shadows in these palettes definitely need to be applied either with a spritz of setting spray or applied with the finger. I just found that most of them are a little bit too sheer for my own liking. This shade in particular performs quite nicely. It has not hard panned on me, but the ones that I use, or the shade that I use for my inner corner on this one, you will see I definitely did need to work with, well, you won't see it. I cut that out, but take my word for it. I did have to swirl my brush around in the pan quite a few times because these more duochromatic shades that they have in these palettes have all hard panned, and I've had them for like 2 weeks. So, oh God. No, this is unacceptable. I have my phone beside me. I texted somebody and now they're calling me back. That is not the social contract that we've entered into. All right, I'll be right back. There we go. Okay, I've delegated that particular task to my husband. We are just trying to set up a play date with our son, and it's harder than it seems for some reason. And I've also completely forgotten what I was talking about because I've also had to restart this about 8 different times because my son is so very, very loud. Very, very sweet. Very, very loud. Anyways, here we are, still blending, as you can see. I've tried to keep in as much of the blending as possible to really show just the level of work you have to put into these shadows. But I've also tried to cut some of it out because otherwise we'd be here forever. And I don't think anybody wants that. So there we are. We'll just continue to watch me blend. So let's talk about this software really, really briefly, just so you understand like how big it is. Like, it's not just installing one little piddly program, it's our entire system. So I also keep forgetting to explain to people at the beginning of these videos what kind of office setting I work in. I just always assume that everybody knows, and that's really egotistical of me because there's new people here and you don't know. So I work in a law firm. I'm a lawyer. I do family law. That's the short and long of it. So I own the family for, oh, damn it. See, now I just dropped something and that's loud. I'm not restarting this. That's too bad. Anyways, I own the firm with a partner. So in terms of like corporate rules and things like that, like I can wear whatever makeup I want, but I do try to keep it on the quote unquote more professional side. Although this week, definitely more color than what I would normally do. And I'm okay with that. I dig it. I like it. So being a lawyer, how we get paid, basically we enter dockets. So anytime I do work on a matter, we charge every 6 minutes. It's all set out in a retainer agreement for our clients. And then at the end of the month, we do our bills and they see exactly the breakdown of work that's being done so that they know exactly what efforts have been put in and why their bill is what it is. So to do that right now, we have Program A. And then we also have Program B, which houses all of the court documents and court files that we would need, like the forms that we need to fill in. And then we also have another one for all of our emails. And then we have our system storage for all of our files. The program that we are trying to install is going to have all of those functions all in one. So it's huge. We've had to do like a system pull from our current docketing system so that they can input it into this new one, but which also means that the downtime between when they did that pull and when we have it installed, we've all had to hand dock it because it won't transfer over. Anyways, it's been a disaster. And they have canceled the installation twice now on us. So on the Tuesday of this particular week, they canceled it in the morning because they said we still had some forms that needed to be completed and filled out, which they didn't send to me until after they had already canceled it. So how I could have finished that before they decided to cancel it is beyond me because they didn't send it to me. Anyways, you can sense my frustration, right? Yes, all of us are frustrated. So Friday, we finally got through with it, except, and I can't remember if I've already said this and deleted it or if I'm repeating myself at this point. I really apologize. It was supposed to be a full day of training, but it actually ended up being a full day of install, which was a colossal waste of everybody's time. So I actually did go into work 5 days this week because I went in on Saturday for several hours. But I did not do makeup that day, so you will not see 5 looks on this because on a Saturday, I am not putting makeup on just to go into the office by myself. You know what? You guys are just going to have to forgive me. I apologize. I don't know what has happened, but doing this voiceover, somehow it wasn't lining up with the actual images, and an earlier portion of the voiceover had moved to the end. And so oh my goodness, I've just been prattling on forever, and I actually spoke for far longer than what I needed. And I just don't have it in me to go back and listen to myself for the last 15 minutes to figure out what I have repeated, what I haven't, and if I have lined up what I'm referring to with what's on the screen. I apologize. It is what it is, but we now have 3 children in our house because that play date has commenced. The dog is now running upstairs to see what's going on. This is real life, and sometimes real life is very, very loud and very overwhelming, and that's where we're at right now. So anyways, let's just talk about this last look then, shall we? So using the Lunar Beauty palette, the Moonspell Volume 2, again, this is a palette that I love the color story. These colors just make my eyes look so green. I think technically I have hazel eyes. They used to be very much brown, and as I've gotten older, more and more green has crept in, which I am A-okay with because I really like the green. But I put certain colors on and you can barely see the brown, and purples and reds are that color. So I love this color story. I just don't use this palette very often because in my mind, it's not really a work appropriate, put that in huge air bunnies. It's not a work appropriate palette. It's definitely a fun palette. And as you can see, I'm making it work for work. So again, this whole exercise is sort of opening up my eyes to what I already have and showing me different ways to get more use out of them. I don't need to be keeping palettes specifically for just looks during makeup videos. I can tone the colors down. I can make them work for the office, and the proof is sort of in the pudding right here as we see me applying it. So this might be a little bit more on the bold side for a more strictly corporate kind of setting, but also that's all kind of bullshit in my opinion. What does it matter? Me having purple powder on my eyes does not have any impact whatsoever on my ability to effectively advocate for somebody or to write an affidavit or to review case law. This has absolutely no bearing on it. So why do we pigeonhole ourselves, and why do we look down on certain things as not being professional? What does it freaking matter? Also, if we're going to be changing things like that, can we also just make comfy clothes professional? Can we do that, please? Because I am far more productive when I am comfortable than when I'm wearing a suit. I very, very, very rarely will I wear a suit. I don't actually have a formal 2-piece suit. I just have blazers. I only wear them to court. I will not wear them unless I'm wearing a t-shirt underneath and throwing them over jeans. But I just don't want to be in something that's so structured and just aware of my clothing as I'm working. It just distracts me. Also, distracting, this eyeshadow. Look how beautiful that is. That is so beautiful. That is what I really wanted the Oden's eyeshadows to apply because they have in the past in other palettes. I'm specifically thinking of the Christmas palettes as well as the Gila palette. Those shimmers all applied beautifully. These ones in the recent collection, they just require a little bit more work. I'm beating a dead horse at this point, but you get my point. Anyways, you can see me talking. I've got a visitor. He will be up on my lap very, very soon. There he is. Every morning he comes down. I swear every morning he wants to either, look at his hair. He just had a haircut today, but he looks like he's got little devil horns. He wants to pick up my lipstick or my eyeshadow or my earrings or all three. And he picks like the craziest things, like my giant hamburger earrings that I have. And then he gets a little bit disappointed when I don't wear them to the office, but I just can't bring myself to wear hamburger earrings to the office. But he is very, very sweet. So I try to get as much of my makeup done as possible before he comes down because he is just an adorable little distraction. Anyways, going in with gloss to finish it off. This one's from Pat McGrath. Arguably her best product in her entire lineup is her glosses. And that concludes a week of purple eyeshadow. So thank you for joining. I hope you have a great week and be a decent human being. Bye for now.